All right. I think we're live now. I think everything's working. I think we got the mic working. I almost plug it in. Do we have sound? We may not. Hang on a minute. Hello, hello. Okay. You guys let me know. Can you hear me okay? You can hear me, but I'm in the dark. Really? It seems like it's showing up okay to me. I can turn the light up a little bit. Yeah, you hear me fine. Okay, hang on. Let me turn the lights up. There's a little bit more light. So, all right. There we go. We got it. Okay. I wasn't sure if the sound was working because it didn't look like it was, but let's get this going. Get the disclaimers out of the way. This is a weekly live broadcast pretty much every Thursday evening at 8 o'clock Central Time right now. We go for about an hour. I don't have a topic planned. This is Ask Me Anything you want to talk about. We'll talk about. The only things I ask, keep it polite, family friendly. Don't start cussing at us. Don't be hateful with anybody. Even if we have difference of opinions, we can have a good, healthy debate. No reason to be hateful or anything like that. I like a good debate, but there's no reason to be hateful with anybody over that. So, if you can follow that, then you're all good. Otherwise, we'd have to boot you out. But all right, let's jump into this then. We got Ed here. Ed says, hard to believe I'm the second like. LOL, maybe the first comment. Anyways, how you and your family are doing great. Or hope you and your family are doing great, Chris. Oh, when are you going to see all the footage you took at QuailCon? I don't know. I'm actually having some issues with that. Here, let me turn this light just a little bit. It's right in my face. Going to make it hard to read. All right, so I don't know. I'm actually having some issues with the video footage, but I'll get into that and see. Hopefully soon. We've got Verna here. Good to see you, Verna. Thanks for joining and being the fourth like. I appreciate that. And then Dawn, good to see you, Dawn. Thanks for hitting that like button too. I appreciate it. Hey, there's Andy Rabbit. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Let's see. I'm jumping through some of these. There's David Lister says, howdy, Chris. Did you get drenched last night? Yeah, it rained pretty decent last night. Not, I was sleeping, so I didn't know. But yeah, it did rain. I know we got a decent amount of rain. I don't know how much. Got a little bit of rain the night before, too. I would have slept through that, too, except for there was some thunder with it. The dog got a little nervous, had to get up and get under the blankets in the bed. Woke me up early, so I heard the thunder. And it's Dawn's birthday, apparently. Did I miss that? Well, happy birthday, Dawn. Hopefully it's a good one. Okay, so TM says you should check out the recipe to make Mayak eggs, Korean marinated eggs. I looked the recipe up on the internet. Yeah, I'm going to have to. Seems like we've talked about that before. I'll put a note somewhere and try to look at that a little bit later. I don't know if it's any good or not. We'll see. Let's see. I'm getting through. There's a lot of conversation back and forth, so pardon me for a minute while I get through some of that kind of stuff. I don't mind. You guys can talk to each other all you want. I want to jump to the ones that are addressed to me. There's Marty from West Virginia. Good to see you. There, I'm getting down to where everybody's telling me they can hear me okay. Let's see. Hey, there's Buster. Good to see you, Buster. Thanks for joining. There's Ray from Utah. Good to see you too. Boy, there's lots of. If I miss one of these, I apologize. There's Tony. Good to see you, Tony from Toronto. RBL Jackson, hello. Child of God from Indiana, good to see you. Bianca says, good Friday morning, Chris, and everyone from Australia. Yeah, it's still Thursday evening here, but, thanks for joining all the way from Australia. Early morning there, I imagine, and I'm just, thank you for making it. I appreciate that. RBL Jackson says, so I raised Bob Whites from eggs. I'm starting to get eggs from them, which is great. I also plan to release about 18 of them in the next week or so. Well, awesome. Congratulations on getting your eggs from them. Hopefully that all goes well. We got S.O. Swanson from Mississippi. Says 19 likes, 28 watching. Who's shorting on the love? Well, thank you. Thanks for always reminding us. I appreciate that. We got 24 likes now, so we're doing okay. Andy Rabbit says, oh boy, I hope I didn't lose all the footage of QuailCon. I hope not either. Having some issues, but I'm going to wait until I need to call Zach and let him know too, because I was shooting video footage for him. I haven't got a chance to do that yet, but I'm trying some things to get it fixed first before I know. Where are we at here? Growing a Homestead from Illinois. Good to see you. Chickens Are Best says, hello. Do you still have your rabbits? I do. Yeah, I still have my rabbits. Getting ready to start breeding them. It's getting into rabbit breeding season for me because I don't really breed in the summertime. I primarily do that in the winter, the fall, winter, up into early spring, and then I give them the summer off. So it's pretty much rabbit breeding in the summer or the fall, winter, spring, and then quail the rest, all summer long. So, Jacob says, I know you have done the ears, but have you taken rabbit hide and made them into dog treats? The same process as the ears. I've not actually tried with the rabbit hide itself. I don't know. I mean, I assume it would work well, but I don't know. You may want to cut it into chunks or something. I don't know about trying to dehydrate an entire rabbit hide at one time and giving that to your dog. But, yeah, you could probably cut it up in pieces and do it. I never thought about it. Andy Rabbit says Andy says was just a lot of talking back and forth because we were here before you. Yeah, no, I get it. Totally get it. And there's always a lot of talking back and forth. So, and I don't mind that. That's good. So, Ed says, wow, just got to add a middle of the live. Never had that happen before. Oh, yeah, I know. I think it's something new with YouTube. I don't know what it is. For some reason, they won't let me just not roll ads in the middle of the video. I don't know why. But some reason it's something I have not seen before. But as I go live, it asks me to let YouTube pick it or let me pick it, and where I want them to roll. And there's not an option to not roll them at all. So I can't really help it. I'm sorry about that. Bianca says, yes, I know here in Australia are in front of you, not early here. It's just gone 9 a.m. here. So perfect timing for our lives each week. Thanks for having me. Well, thanks for joining. 9 a.m. That's not too bad, I guess. I thought it was earlier than that, but hey, either way, I appreciate you taking time out to spend with us. David says, I don't remember if I asked, do you raise California rabbits? I have had California rabbits in the past. I don't currently. What I'm raising right now are silver fox rabbits. They're pedigreed, but I've raised Californias in the past. Californias are a fine rabbit. There's nothing wrong with them at all. Don says, I use an ad blocker and have for years. Well, I don't know if that works on the YouTube videos or not, but go for it. Chickens Are Best says, okay, I started raising rabbits about 3 months ago. I need one rabbit, and she only had 2 babies, but they came out of the nesting box last week. I think that's probably I bred one rabbit, and she only had 2 babies, but they came out of the nesting box last week. Yeah, there's the correction, bred. Didn't mean to say need. So I don't know if there's a question in there. I'm going to try to assume what you're saying is you bred one rabbit, she only had 2 babies. Why did she only have 2 babies? Who knows? I mean, that's one of those things that most of the time, I don't know what kind of rabbit it is. I'm assuming probably a California, because I think it was you asked me about that. Maybe not. Maybe it wasn't you. But either way, if it's a good meat rabbit breed, a New Zealand, a California, silver fox, any of those, they should be having larger litters than that. But unless it's a really old rabbit, that's kind of an odd. Just 2 babies is a very small litter. So if she's a young rabbit and just got breeding age and you just bred her and she only had 2, I'd give her another chance. If you get the same small litter, the next time I'd look for a replacement rabbit for her, because chances are it's just a genetic issue with her. She's not really cut out to be a good breeding rabbit. So I'm assuming that's kind of where you were going with that. If that's not it, let me know, and we can discuss it further. Verna says it does work. She's used it for years as well. Okay. Don says, I don't get YouTube ads, Facebook ads, or Google ads. No ads ever. Okay. Bev Smith says, "What? No ads? The name of the blocker." So you're gonna have buddy using an ad blocker and probably steal all my advertising revenue from me. No, I'm just kidding. It doesn't matter. You guys can do that if you want to. Caesar says, "Hey Chris, good to see you. Good to see you too. Thanks for joining." Dawn says she uses U-block Origin. I don't know what that is, but anyway, an ad blocker apparently. Chickens Are Best says she's a mix a little over a year. That's what the owner told me. So that's not terribly old rabbit. Like I said, give her another chance. If she has another small litter like that, only 2-3 rabbits, I'd look for a replacement for her. Jacob says, is the growth weight gain similar in silver fox rabbits when compared to New Zealand or California rabbits? Honestly, with my New Zealand's right now, they grow out a little bit slower than what the Californias and the New Zealands I've had in the past. Those usually grow out pretty, especially if you've got purebred California and a purebred New Zealand, you crossbreed them. Those grow out really fast. Usually I can get them up to about 8 pounds in 5 pounds in about 8 weeks. My silver foxes are taking closer to about 12 weeks to get to that weight. So they do grow out a little bit slower, mine do, than what my experience with New Zealand's and California's have in the past. Edward Smith says, my first time here, I'm in the hospital after an automobile accident. I really enjoy your videos on rabbits. I have chickens and rabbits in Canada. Well, I'm hoping they're recovering well. I'm sorry to hear that. Thanks for joining us from the hospital, I guess. But man, that's terrible. I don't, prayers for your quick healing and, getting back to your rabbits and things. Cal Troy says, good evening. Do you ever enter your quail in a local fair? No, I haven't actually. I don't even know if there's any fairs around here to enter them into. I don't know. I've never done it. And Bev wants to know where in Canada you're from. She says she's from NS. Is that Nova Scotia? Is that right? Or my rabbits? No, I've never actually entered any of my animals into a fair. I don't really know the first thing about it for showing animals. I've never raised them for that purpose. It's always been just for meat production, egg production, those kinds of things. So I don't know anything about it, honestly. I know, I don't know if Whiskey Tango Farms is here. They are big into fairs right now. Andy Rabbit may have done some. I know she's got some rabbits with some pretty good pedigrees, but I don't know if she's ever entered any into fairs or anything. Chickens Are Best says, do you have any tips for keeping water bowls from freezing in the winter? Okay, are we talking about for rabbits or for quail? For rabbits, no, I don't have a good tip for keeping them from freezing. I haven't found a way to do that. I'm afraid to put any kind of heat source in there with the rabbits because it would all require electrical cords and rabbits chew on everything. So I'm a little bit nervous about that. What I use are some, they're rubber bowls, pretty good sized rubber bowls. And then I just take them out. I just fill them about halfway full. The rabbits come and get their fill. In the evening time, I go out there when I get home from work, fill them up again. If they're full of ice, I throw them on the ground, stomp on them, knock the ice out of them. That's why I use the rubber ones. And then I just start over with that process. That's kind of what I do with the rabbits. Now with the quail, I do have electric heated water that works really well. It's in my Amazon shop, so you can go check it out there. It's the, is it Little Giant model, or I can't remember what model it is all of a sudden. Let's see if I can find it real quick. It is Farm Innovations. It's a 2-gallon heated poultry water. It actually works really well. So that's what I've been using for the quail the last couple of years. Verna says, I think a lot of times 4-H and other kids usually show in fairs. Yeah, that makes sense. Andy says that silver foxes are also a fur breed, so they take a bit longer, but the perks of silver foxes outweigh them taking a bit longer. Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that too. And I've talked about this before. The thing I really like about the silver foxes is that they're just very mellow, very easy to handle. I mean, they don't really like being picked up, but they're not, like crazy and neurotic like my New Zealand does have been in the past. I think that it does make it a little bit more worth, for me, it works out well. I don't mind waiting just a little bit longer for the grow out, just based on their temperament. I like their temperament quite a bit. So chickens are best, says rabbits. Okay, well, hopefully I got your question answered for you, how I handle watering them in the wintertime. The birdhouse says, hello from Ohio. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Edward Smith says, I have American Blues, am from MB. I don't know what MB is. Oh, that's somewhere in Canada, right? I don't know what that is. New Brunswick. Okay. New Brunswick. And Verna wants to know from Birdhouse, what part of Ohio are you in? She's in Warren County. David Lister says, at what weight do you generally harvest your lepus? What is lepus? Is that another name for rabbit? Yes, that is, isn't it? Is it lepus or is it lepus? How do you pronounce it? I've heard that before, actually, and just had completely forgotten. What weight do I usually? I don't necessarily weigh them, but I got a pretty good eye for when they're just about 5 pounds, somewhere right around in there. Is about the time that I want to harvest them. Unemployable says, in fact, I have an aquarium and was wondering if the plants are edible. Turns out they have thiaminase, I don't know what that is, and would have similar effects to medicated feed. Huh. So that must be a thiamine blocker is what that is, I'm assuming. Because if I'm not mistaken, medicated feed, that's all it is. It's got a thiamine blocker in it that helps prevent coccidiosis, basically. So you wouldn't want to necessarily feed that to them for their entire lives, but it might be good for your chicks, you know. Rabbit Homesteading says, don't look into fairs, be free from some stuff. You do it because you can. Win-win. Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, who knows? I mean, if you want to get into fairs and things like that, go for it. Andy Rabbit says, I decided I wasn't going to do any showing because the rabbit disease in COVID. Huh. That makes sense. RBL Jackson says, hey, cool. Just sold half a dozen Coturnix quail for $50. They're 8 weeks old. I gave them a good deal. They can possibly lay blue eggs too. Well, nice. Congratulations on your sale. I don't know if that's going to turn into a long-term permanent thing, but that would be nice. $50 every once in a while. And Jacob says hello to the fellow Ohioans. Ohio, is that? Yeah, I guess that's how you'd say it. Says, I'm from Southeast Ohio, Hocking County. Let's see. Andy says, best time to harvest is when you're tired of feeding them and it's time for them to feed you. It's a good point. I mean, yeah, I don't necessarily, like I said, I don't weigh them. I got a pretty good idea of what size I want them to be. It's pretty close to 5 pounds. Some of them may be a little under. Sometimes they may be a little over, but it's just basically when it works out to be a good time for me to do it, they look big enough. Rabbit Homesteading says, true, but stuff is getting weird. If you can support yourself, then do it. I don't know what that was a response to exactly, but yeah, why not? David N., good to see you, says hello to me and everyone else. Andy Rabbit says, I will start showing sooner or later. Well, good luck when it does come to showing your rabbits. I don't really know the first thing about it. I know you can look up like standards and breed standards and things like that and figure out, what you're looking, how your rabbit should look, basically how it's going to show based on that. You can look all that up. It's just not my deal. I've never really had an interest in showing rabbits. Who knows? Maybe someday I'll change my mind and decide to do it, but I don't know. It's just not my deal. To me, it seems like there would be a whole lot of travel involved with that because I don't know of any rabbit shows that take place within 50 to 100 miles of me. So I don't really want to be tied up on weekends, spending my whole weekend traveling to rabbit shows. But hey, that's just me, and maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know. So we got a little bit of lull in the comments. Everybody still here? Make sure I didn't lose the stream or something. Somebody give me some kind of response. Let me know. Beth says, I have no quail news. That's all right. You don't have to have quail news. Still here. Okay, good. We're still going. I just want to make sure I wasn't just talking to nobody because I don't mind just babbling on for a few minutes, but I don't want to be talking to nobody. Andy Rabbit says, I got my silver foxes to show, but all the crazy hit and I just didn't. That's also why I bought my van. Okay, makes sense. Just listening in, huh? Well, I don't have topics planned out. I really probably should have a topic planned out. But I never do because I figure that I'm going to have a hard time getting through all the chat, which is usually the case. But who knows? We could talk about other things. I could show you like recent metal detecting finds. I've been doing a little bit of metal detecting. Let's see anything good. I found this ring. I don't know if that's going to focus. This ring I thought was a junk kids ring, but it is marked as silver, Mexican 955 silver. So that's it. And then we got anything else worth showing? Not much. Some junk jewelry I found at a park. It's kind of sparkly. I don't know how well that's going to show up on camera, but it is just costume jewelry. So not much else, just some other stuff. But all right, let's see. We got some comments coming in. Bev says, still working. The downfall to working from home. I tend to work late most evenings. Yeah, I understand. I work from home 2 days a week. I don't tend to work late necessarily with what I'm doing right now, but before changes in my job, I was, whether I worked from home or not, I was always on call. So there was lots of times I was working late. Jacob Wolf says, any ideas on how to get local people to be more receptive to eating rabbits and quail? There currently isn't a market here, and I got a funny look when I mentioned eating it. Only thing that's helped, is there more to that, is describing quail as mini chickens. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know, honestly. I don't know of any tricks. I mean, I live in an area where, I don't know, occasionally somebody thinks it's sometimes somebody thinks it's a little odd, but most of the time around here, people are pretty accustomed to that. It's kind of a fairly rural area, so a lot of people are hunters, or they hunt wild rabbit, or have somebody in their family that hunts wild rabbit, or have somebody in their family at one time that raised meat rabbits or something like that. So it's not really that crazy unheard of around here. And the quail, that's kind of a newer thing. A lot is people, when you say quail, they think bobwhite. So it's a little bit different, but lots of people, they're quail hunters or have been. So it's not really a weird thing here. So I don't deal with that necessarily. You might compare them to dove, because a lot of people, when they haven't really eaten quail, I say, well, it's very similar to dove, and they're like, oh, okay, I've eaten dove. They're familiar with dove. So that may be something to kind of use to compare to. I don't have any other good suggestions. We'll see if somebody else does. Unemployable says, what was the most interesting quail questions you've been asked after all these years? Boy, I don't know. I didn't keep track of any of them. I get lots of questions about quail, and sometimes they're a little weird, but nothing comes to mind as a out there crazy question. I can't think of one right offhand. I'm sorry to disappoint you on that one. I can't think of anything that's been too interesting quail. Most are interesting and crazy. Most of the questions revolve around the same things that I've addressed already. And it's, has to do with, my quail aren't laying eggs. They were laying eggs. Now they stopped laying eggs, a lot of those kinds of things, like the kinds of things as new people, when you're raising animals and you haven't done before, that, all of us that have done it for a long time probably already know the answers to that stuff, but a lot of people get confused about that. One of the things I think is probably like I got a quail with a soft shell egg. I have a quail that's laying a soft shell egg. What do I do about that? That's one of the common questions I get a lot is, and in most of the time it's birds that just started laying. Everybody, that's one of the things that's kind of one of my pet peeves that kind of drives me nuts is when you see that posted like on a Facebook group or something, the comments are almost always, add calcium, add calcium, add calcium. And that's very seldom the issue. If you're feeding a game bird feed or a turkey starter or something like that to your birds, it's probably got plenty of calcium in it. They only need about 1.5 to 2% of the diet to be calcium. Most of the time, it's just your birds are just new to laying. And when they're new to laying, they first start laying at the beginning of the season, or they first start, get of age and start laying. They're going to lay some weird eggs. And you're going to get occasionally a soft-shelled egg, an egg with no shell on it at all. All kinds of weird eggs like that, and they just work. It's just part of the egg laying process. They work it out, no problem. So if it's not like a big issue with all your birds and an ongoing issue, chances are if you have a low calcium that's causing that, it's going to cause other problems too, like bone issues and things like that. But I don't know. That's maybe a little bit off topic of what you asked me. I don't know if I answered your question very well or not, but those are a lot of the questions that I get. And, I've addressed all that stuff in video at one time or another. But I don't mind. I mean, it's okay. I get everybody's at a different, I'm not complaining about it. That's not what I'm saying. Those are just the common questions that I get. Phil says, keep talking. You're doing fine. Thanks. Andy Rabbit says, I bet that's a toe ring. It might be. It'd be for an awful small. I mean, it's tiny. It's not very big at all. It wouldn't even fit. Like, it wouldn't even go past my first knuckle on my finger. I don't, my pinky finger. So it's pretty small, but it is marked. It does have markings in it. From Mexico. It says Mexico on one part and 955 on another. So it's silver, but kind of caught me off guard. It's very light. There's not much to it. David says, Chris, where did it go? There it is. David Lister says, Chris, I think there are shows in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. Yeah, that's a little ways away, though. Let's see, how far is Bartlesville from Joplin? Yeah, it's about a 2-hour drive. It's 101 miles. So that's a little ways away. But then, who knows? Vernon's got a good suggestion. She says, serve samples from the grill to them. That may get them, that may work. JJ says, I love metal detecting. Just hard to find places to do it. Yeah, we've got a couple of parks around here that we can do it in. Some of it, my own yard I can metal detect in. Sometimes I'll get out for like an hour before I go to work or something like that and check. Anything else interesting I found lately? I don't think so. I got lots of tokens, lots of Chuck E. Cheese tokens. Yeah, that's Chuck E. Cheese. That's a car wash token. That's I don't think it's going to show up. It's too dark probably to see it. But yeah, lots of little tokens. Found an interesting, this is a Irish blessing token. There we go. Has like this Celtic kind of cross on one side and Irish blessing on the other. It's pretty dirty, so it's going to be hard to read. But anyway, a couple of things. Bob says, hey, Chris, I have 14 hens, 3 roosters. They're all at 14 weeks. The hens are laying eggs every day, and the roosters are breeding, but I have not heard any crowing at all. Is this normal? No, I'd say that's pretty abnormal, actually. It's usually pretty common for the roosters to start crowing a lot, but hey, I wouldn't complain. If you got quiet roosters, then that's okay. If they're breeding, then you're fine. Now, I will say, though, this is probably not the case. Unless you've got light on the hutches, we're getting down to, unless you live like in Australia where they're going into summer now, I think, we're getting into the part of the year where the days are getting pretty short, and the quail need about 14 hours a day of light for them to be laying eggs and for the roosters to be crowing and mating and those kinds of things. The roosters are a little bit more less sensitive to that than the hens are. So the roosters generally start crowing and wanting to mate and things like that before the hens are ready to lay eggs. But that may have something to do with it, the time of year, unless you've got lighting on them. I don't know, honestly. But again, if you're getting them to breed without them crowing, that's not a bad problem at all. Dawn says her roos don't crow that have ladies with them, maybe once a day. That's it. Yeah, what I usually find, though, 14 weeks old, usually those young roosters, when they first hit age, of course, they may be over this by now by 14 weeks, but usually when they hit like 7 weeks of old, they start crowing like crazy. And they're pretty obnoxious and pretty loud, pretty talkative, I should say. Not extremely loud, but they crow a lot. They do calm down as they get older, and I don't hear them very often at all then. But young roosters like that, usually I'm hearing a lot of crowing from them. Tex says, my rabbits made babies, and after around 24 hours, she eats and killed the rest of her babies. This is also her first time. Is it okay since she did not eat them as soon as they were born their first? So that'd be something I'd kind of keep an eye on. That's pretty rare for a rabbit to do that. There are some old, folklore stuff that says, you can put a piece of bacon in there with the mom and, maybe she'll eat that and leave her babies alone. It's pretty rare for a mother rabbit to actually eat her babies. They may have died and then she was just trying to clean them up. But if she actually killed them and ate them, I'd say that's an unusual thing, that'd be something I'd be mildly concerned about. Being her first litter, though, give her another chance, see how she does on her next litter. If the same thing happens, it's time to get rid of her and look for another rabbit, because that's a very bad mothering trait. But it's not something I've never run into it. I've never actually had a rabbit do that, but it does happen from time to time. RBL Jackson says, never really thought about the dove comparison. Yeah, it's very similar to dove. I mean, they're very closely related, very similar. It says, I may have to try quail poppers on the grill. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. That's pretty good. All right, we got Jacob Wolf says, Chris, that's been part of the issue. A lot of people think rabbits should only be eaten in the months that end in R because of the parasite load, but I try to explain that's for wild rabbits only. Yeah, and that's really only if you're not cooking them properly. But yeah, and around here we don't say months that end in an R. We say after the first hard frost. Or a hard freeze, I guess. You really need a good hard freeze before you start hunting rabbit because of the parasite load. But you're right, it's not an issue with domestic rabbits. If you're not keeping them on the ground, there's very little chance they're going to get parasites. If you are keeping them on the ground, there's a possibility. But if you're cooking the meat all the way through, it's not really an issue. Andy Rabbit says to Jacob, the price wasn't so high, more people would probably be willing to try. David Lister says, compare your quail to Cornish hens. You could. I mean, it's not at all like chicken meat, though. It's totally different. So I don't know. That may be setting them up for an expectation that they're not getting. But, yeah, I mean, it's the size-wise, I guess it's similar. Rabbit Homesteading says, only comment I can say is keep kids into it. Sorry, didn't get the name from the question. I'm not sure if that's answering like how to get more people into it, get the kids interested into it. That may be it. Mooney Royal says, sir, heating element or heating bulb, which one is better for the incubator? Are you talking about the incubator or the brooder? Because they're two different things. Your incubator, I don't know if you're using a homemade incubator, probably some kind of heating element would be the best thing for that. But if you're talking about the brooder, like after they come out of the incubator and go into the brooder, I don't know that there's a better option. If you've got a good heat plate, heat element of some kind that can heat the brooder up, that's probably a little bit safer than a heat bulb. Those are kind of dangerous, honestly. You want to make sure you get them secured so they're not going to fall. They're not going to come in contact with flammable stuff. You don't want to burn your shed down or something like that. I don't know if I answered that or not properly. Let me know if there's more information you need. Caesar says, how was your garden this year? Mine was terrible. Too wet here in New Jersey. Mine did not do very well this year either. Part of that's my fault. I got a little bit lazy with things and just wasn't taking care of things real well. Had some blight issues with the tomatoes early on that I didn't really address. So it wasn't the best garden I've ever had. Not real great, honestly. But, there's always next year. We'll get better. Roads and Valley says, how are we all doing tonight? Thought I'd stop by and say hi. Well, thanks for doing that. I appreciate it. And Jacob wants to know, do you think $5 to $7 per processed bird would be a good starting point until the market develops? Yeah, that's not a bad thing. That seems like a decent price. That's maybe a little bit on the cheap side, honestly, for a processed bird. You may want to look into the legalities of that. Some places, they kind of really frown on selling processed meat without USDA inspection. I don't know what the laws are on that. You may look that up. You could always sell the live birds to them live and then process them as a favor to the person that buys them. JJ says, cool tokens. Yeah, I kind of like finding tokens. They're kind of neat. And Jacob says $5 a pound for rabbits. Could be. $5 a pound is a little high, I think. But let's see what Andy Rabbit says. She says, Jacob, it depends on where you live. Here I can go buy a box at the store for about $13. For quail for $13 processed? Huh. And Verna's saying, do what you think is good. Personally, I would put an ad saying for so many days they can get them for $5 each processed. Don says at 7 weeks old, my roost set up in the coveys don't crow. Those are some busy boys at that age. Yeah, they do tend to get pretty excited when they're young, but yeah. JJ says, let's see, I had to add another string of lights to the quail. The first one was colored lights, and I don't think they were bright enough, but pretty, LOL. Yeah, well, that may be the case. They don't really require super bright light, but they do require some light. So, yeah, you may be right. It may not be bright enough. Buster says, JJ poppers are half of a jalapeno pepper with cream cheese and part of a quail breast and wrapped in bacon. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. That sounds pretty good. Yeah, you could put them in a smoker. You could do them on a grill, however you want to do it. Andy Rabbit says, Jacob, ask yourself what you would pay $5 a pound for meat with bones in it. For me, that's why I raise them myself. Yeah, would you pay $5 a pound for? Yeah, seems a little high, $5 a pound, but I don't know. Maybe try it and see. If nobody buys, you can lower the price. Blessed with Pets is here. Good to see you. Tech Space says, what cage size do you recommend for bucks? Like how many square feet? Well, what I use is it depends on the size of your rabbits. I'm assuming you're talking meat rabbits that are somewhere around the 10-pound range. You could theoretically get away with a smaller cage size for the bucks because they're not going to have babies with them. Common cage sizes are like 30 inch by 30 inch. You'd have to do the math to figure out the square feet. But I use a 36 by 30. I use 36 by 30 for every rabbit. All my breeding does, all my bucks, all my rabbits get a 36 by 30 cage. It's just easier for me to keep them all the same size. They're 36 inches by 30 inches. So I don't know. I can't do the math in my head what the square feet is on that, but you can figure it out. Rabbit Homesteading says, rabbit eating babies I've also never seen, so I don't know either. I would try again, but maybe have to call her. Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts too. It's a rare thing. It doesn't happen very often. I've never had it happen with one of my rabbits, but it's not unheard of. It has happened before. I've seen, I've had issues with like rats or hamsters or mice or something like that. Sometimes they will eat their babies. That's a little bit more common, I think, in them. But it's not an unheard of thing. Sometimes it could be just first-time mom jitters. Give her another chance. If it happens again, then definitely replace her with another one. Hey there, Scrap 5000 says, what's up, all? Greetings from North Carolina. Sorry I'm late, Chris. Playing you on fast forward to catch up. LOL. Hey, it's all good. Like I said, there's no attendance taken here if you're late or early. I don't even know the difference. So I just appreciate you being here. Let's see. May says, do the roosters always start crowing at 6 a.m.? Not always, but yeah, it does seem like that's their favorite time to start crowing. They're going to start crowing usually right about the time the sun's coming up. When the sun just starts peeking up above the horizon, you can see the first rays of the sun. It may be 6 a.m. where you're at right now. It's probably closer to about 6:45. That's when about the time they start crowing. BBQ Fisherman says, received my shipment of eggs from Southwest Game Birds today. Looking forward to new babies. Well, awesome. Good luck with your hatch. I hope that goes well. Verna says, the only time I've heard of rabbits eating their babies is if something is wrong with the litter. Yeah, that would be a common reason. If they do, if the babies do die, it's not uncommon for the mothers to eat them. That's kind of a survival instinct to avoid drawing like scavengers and predators into the nesting area, to recoup the nutrients that they expelled from, having the babies. That's not that uncommon at all. Sometimes they get a little bit aggressive with the, where they're cleaning the babies off, the afterbirth, and can go a little far, like chew their legs off or something like that. But that's pretty uncommon too. Scrap 5000 says, smash the like button. Thank you. I appreciate that. And JJ, thank you for the like. Don says, let's see. Don says, my bachelor cage roosts start at 3 a.m. and go all day long. Yeah, that doesn't sound like fun, does it? Blessed with Pets says, I bought 4 more rats today. I now have 8 and I flippin' love them. They are so sweet, like little puppies. Rats are actually, if you're looking for like a pet, like, like hamsters are pretty common. Rats actually make a really good pet. They're much better than hamsters. Hamsters tend to be a little bit more bitey. Rats are actually usually pretty mellow. They can be trained somewhat, like come to their name, tamed up. They're actually pretty good pets. I always kind of liked having rats. I used to own a bunch of snakes, and I was breeding them for snake food, but they were great. I liked them. Abba Love says hello to all. Hello to you too. Mooney says, thanks, sir. You're absolutely welcome. Hopefully I got it answered for you. May says, I'm usually up at that time, but my poor neighbors. Yeah, I don't, where mine are, my neighbors don't even hear them in the mornings, I don't think. My one neighbor thought they were songbirds for the longest time, and then finally figured out I was raising quail. Andy says, I raise my rabbits for fur also, so sometimes I have extra meat. I will sell for $10 for a whole rabbit. Well, there you go. TM wants to know how the garden tower is doing. Are you still using it? Yeah, that was the one success. That thing is fantastic. It does great. We started some spinach. My wife did, actually. Some spinach and lettuce and something like that. Several of those, like spinach, lettuce, a couple different types of lettuce, something else. But either way, started those in it was like early August. It was hot out. And it all of it sprouted, all of it. And all of it grew without bolting right away. That's pretty impressive. Usually when it's hot out like that, you have a hard time getting lettuce or spinach, either one, to sprout, let alone grow without bolting right away. And it all did great. I'm very impressed with that garden tower. It's a fantastic investment if you're looking to be able to grow. I mean, it's perfect for like herbs and salad greens. Carrots do really well in it. There's lots of things you can grow in it, but I like it because it gives me a place to grow all my salad greens and stuff without having to without having to devote like a garden box or something like that to them. And I can grow a lot of stuff in a very small, compact area. So yeah, I'm very impressed with it. It did very well. Hey, Boris, good to see you. Verna says, a lot of times, Chris, you can get away with it selling from your homestead. Yeah, as long as you're not doing huge volumes, you're probably okay. And Andy says, yeah, that's a box of quail, 4 for $13. Okay. Scrap 5000 says, Chris, do you or any of your listeners know if washing/soaking quail eggs causes them to crack open? I think that's happened to mine. So many seem fine, then suddenly they're cracked once soaked. Interesting. I've never had that issue. I mean, unless you're talking about like a hard-boiled egg that's still hot and you put it in cold water, but I don't think that's what you're talking about. I don't know if, you don't really want to wash your eggs hey, Max, what's up, buddy? You don't really want to wash your eggs before you store them. You want to wash them right before you use them. So if you're, like washing them and then letting them set for a period of time, it could be that they're starting to go bad and that's why they're cracking. I don't know, honestly. I've not noticed any issues with it, though. Rabbit Homesteading says, sold live and free processing is awesome. Glad you said that as a workaround for the less government control. Yeah, that kind of makes sense too. I think that's a good way to kind of get around that stuff. You just sell them live and then you process them as a favor. Abba Love says, I have 11-week-old quail that I separated almost 2 weeks ago. Her feathers are growing back. So should I put her back in with the group she was with? It is 4 other females and 1 male. She's been separated for almost 2 weeks, huh? Well, you're going to have a hard time mixing her back in with that flock, especially if you've got lights on them. They're still laying eggs. They're still crowing. They tend to be more aggressive at that point, and they get very territorial. So when you add her back in, they're probably going to look at her as a new bird and really start picking on her. Maybe, maybe not. You may not have any issues at all, but that would be my concern. Adding a fully mature bird in with a bunch of other fully mature birds is a little bit tricky to do sometimes. You can try moving them out to a neutral location for all of them, and they may go ahead and accept her in that way. I know Zach has suggested, Zach from my shire, I've heard him suggest taking all your birds out, put them in a crate, like a big Rubbermaid tub or something, put them in there for like a couple of hours, and then put them all back in the cage. And that seems to work too. And I've also heard some other people talk about spraying them down with a vinegar water mixture, just misting your birds down with that. For some reason that might work. But that's the issue you may run into, is they may beat her up, seeing her as a new bird encroaching on their territory. Big East Farm says, butchered my first quail and got some content of it this weekend. I haven't tried it yet, but your thoughts on the quail pop method? Are you talking about, all right, let me reread that, make sure. I'm not sure what you mean by quail pop method. Are you talking about like popping their heads, like what they call a bloodless call? It works just fine. There's nothing wrong with it. You got to be a little bit careful. There's a certain, I mean, it's not really that hard. Once you do it once or twice, you kind of figure it out. But there's a very fine line between enough pressure to dislocate their neck and dispatch them properly and pulling their head completely off. So it's a little, I mean, it's not terribly difficult to figure out. Like I said, once you do it a couple of times, you'll have it down for the most part. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. It works great. RBL Jackson says, hoping I've got some Bob Whites sold this week too. Some person buying the Coturnics may have to get some of the Bob Whites as well. Excited for this because the return on investment hasn't been great. Well, good. I hope that you do get some sold. Be careful with that, in the sense that they typically, Bob Whites are a native bird, so they're going to require a permit to raise. You might get yourself in some trouble trying to sell those to people that don't have permits for them. I don't know. Just maybe one of those things you want to keep kind of quiet. Vay's Place says, Abba Love, that far away from the flock will be hard on her. I would put them in a box about an hour before dusk and put them on the same cage. Yeah, that's kind of the same thing I was just saying. So good advice, Verna. Text Space says, how do these lives more often turn? Hope you do these lives more often. I'm turning notifications on. Yeah, I do them every Thursday evening, unless something comes up and I can't make it, and then I just leave a comment in the kind of community section that I'm unable to make it, which your notifications should notify you of. But for the most part, every Thursday evening, 8 o'clock Central, this is where I'm at. Jake says, if I have a molting quail, should I take them out so the others might lay? I wouldn't do that. No, just leave them in there. Let them, they'll recover from their molt. It shouldn't affect the others, the other birds in the hutch. They should continue to lay regardless. I mean, if the one bird's molting, it's the only one. That shouldn't affect anything else. So I don't separate them out for that or anything. I just let them deal with it all together, and they do fine. Tech wants to know, what's the average litter size for your rabbits? Somewhere around, probably average is around 8, 9 maybe. I usually get about, it's probably, I guess 8 would be an average. I usually get 8 to 10 in a litter, somewhere right around in there. Bob says, to Scrap 5000, I wash all my eggs with warm water before storing them in the refrigerator and never had any crack that weren't already thin shelled. Interesting. Yeah, it's really best practice not to wash them, because if you wash them, you're washing off the bloom that protects them from going bad. That washing off that bloom allows bacteria to enter in through the shell, and then they won't last nearly as long. But if you're using them up fairly quick, I don't guess it really makes that big of a difference. Buster says, to Tech Space, he has a lot of videos that you can rewatch. Oh yeah, absolutely. A lot of them. And he got another ad. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, guys. I can't help it. Unemployable says, do Bob Whites taste similar to Coturnics? I would assume, but I've never had one. Yeah, they're all very similar. Very similar to dove. I imagine pigeon's about the same too. I've never eaten pigeon, but I mean, it's just a rock dove. It should taste about the same, right? Joy says, hello from Western Oregon. Good to see you, Joy. Thanks. Verna says, Chris, in my green stalks, my huge tomatoes are just now ripening up. You grew tomatoes, like full-size tomato plants in your green stalk? That seems kind of like that. I can't imagine they'd be big enough to do that. But hey, I guess you can prove me wrong. TM says it's pretty handy at the back door too, the garden tower. Yeah. I've got the green stalk garden. That's what I've got. You're right. It's just right out my back door on my deck. It's really handy right there. Radishes do really well in it. Carrots did really well in it. We'll see what else we plant. Spinach. lettuce, some romaine, and some leaf lettuce. All that stuff did really well in it. Did some kale. It did, or not kale. I don't grow kale. I don't like kale at all. Bok choy. Did some bok choy, and it did really well. But I had an issue with earwigs, and the earwigs loved the bok choy. They just destroyed it. So it was doing well, but anyway. Let's see. What is this? Don says, Andy Rabbit, YouTube kicked off some big YouTubers and tons of people left here for Rumble about 2 months ago. They have to run ads to make up for the loss of everyone leaving here. Huh, interesting. David Lister says, was Max named after Max and the Grinch? No, but now that you mention it, I guess he is kind of similar, huh? He's not exactly. Come here, Max. Come on, get up. Come on, quit being lazy. Get up. Come on. Here, hop up here. Let's everybody see you. Come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on. There you go. There he is. Yeah, he's getting pets. Come on. Oh, yeah, I love you too. All right. Look at the camera. Yeah, he doesn't know where to look. All right, good boy. Good boy. Yeah, I love you too. Get back. Off. Off. There you go. Good boy. No, he wasn't named after Max and the Grinch. He's just, I don't know why we named him Max. We just did. RBL. Oh, now I pet him. He won't let me touch my mouse. He's got to nose my hand. RBL Jackson says, yeah, Chris, I have the Bob White license from the Fish and Game to legally sell them, required here in Texas. Good. Good. So you should be good there. Yeah, the game bird license is what you meant. That makes sense. But don't the people you sell them to have to be licensed as well? They may not be. I don't know. Unemployable says, are you going to use the BB to dispatch rabbits in the future? Was it better or worse than your other methods? Well, it's definitely simpler, and it seemed to work pretty well. It was a 22 caliber pellet rifle. I've used .177 in the past, and I didn't really like that much. It seemed like it took longer for them to expire. I want to put them out of their misery. I mean, I want it to be quick and as painless as possible. And that 22 caliber pellet seemed to do a pretty good job. So I probably continue to use it. Andy says, I know ads aren't your fault, just weird. I know it. I'm sorry. JJ says, today's place, you might want to make a temp greenhouse around your tomatoes during the night with plastic or an old sheet. Is starting to get cold. Yeah, it's supposed to get down to here Friday night going into Saturday morning. I think the low is like 38. That's pretty chilly. I mean, we haven't been that low at all. We had a cold front come through, or having one come through, I guess. And with all this rain we got, and then it's going to be, chilly for a while. TM says, I got some Mr. Stack planters, 5 of them. Awesome. Bev says the ads are driving me nuts. Oh, I'm sorry. I wish I could control that. I don't really have much choice. JJ Willow says, I don't have very much luck with the stackables. Oh, well, I guess it depends on what you're growing them too. The one thing I really like about the green stock that other containers I've not seen is the watering system on it. You just fill the top up, it waters everything. So it makes it super easy. That is the problem I typically have with containers a lot of the time, is trying to keep them watered properly without them drying out, because they do tend to dry out very quick. The other thing is, the potting soil, the potting mix that you use, make sure you use something that's going to be, like a good potting mix. Don't just get dirt or just straight compost, because that will not hold the water nearly as well and dries out, and that kind of causes some problems too. So Bev Smith says, oh, hi, Max. Yep. He's he'd be happy to see you guys if he could tell you were there. He likes everybody. Vay says, Chris, you can even grow potatoes in them according to Greenstock. I have full-size tomatoes, green beans, strawberries, nasturtiums. I always have a hard time with that word, and greens. Well, interesting. You must have the bigger one. I have the leaf model, which is a little bit smaller container size, more containers, but smaller size. I can't imagine trying to put a full-grown tomato in there, or a potato for that matter. It doesn't seem like they'd really produce much. You might have enough room for like 3 potatoes in each thing. But I guess if you want to plant that many, why not? Blessed with Pets says, so far, what is your absolute favorite animal you've had? My dog. For sure, my dog. Dog is truly man's best friend. Dawn says that other people are leaving here because of the ads too. Get an ad blocker. Interesting. Andy Rabbit says pigs. I don't know. I don't know. Pigs? I've never raised pigs before. S.O. Swanson says Max is his absolute favorite. Yeah, he is. He's a good dog. And J.J. Willis says, oh, such a sweet dog. He is pretty sweet. Except for unless you're the mailman or, somebody that comes by that's not, he doesn't know is supposed to be here. He can be pretty aggressive with them. But I kind of like that in him, that once he knows you're, once, like if I'm talking to you, we're friends, he's fine. He loves everybody. But like the mailman shows up, boy, he would tear the mailman up if the mailman tried to break into the house. He's got a great temperament though. He's really good at, that's perfect, for me. Andy Rabbit says, pigs are your favorite animal. Well, interesting. Abba Love says, another question. Do males have to crow? I have 2 males, but they never crow. They're 11 weeks old. They don't have to crow. No, that's not a requirement. If you could find males that didn't crow, that'd be actually pretty good, as long as they're still breeding and all those other things. They won't crow. They only crow during breeding season. So they have to have enough light, 14 hours a day. Usually that's a sign that they're ready to mate. And if they don't have enough light, well, then it's not breeding season for them and they're not going to start crowing. So that could be it, or it could be just you have some quiet birds. I don't know. Verna says, you think she means guinea pigs? Oh, okay. I had a guinea pig before. It was all right. RBL Jackson says, the buyers of the Bob White quail got a receipt from me that has my license number on it. That way they are also legal to have the birds. Oh, okay. That's interesting. No, Andy Rabbit says, no, 300-pound plus pigs. Verna says, I have the big one. Each one holds 1 cubic foot of soil. Andy says, it's not because I love bacon either. That's not why you like pigs, huh? Hey, there's... is it that time? Oh, my goodness, it is about that time, isn't it, to close it out. So, and Tara says, hi, bye. Sorry I'm late. It's all right. We're all good. Thanks for joining us, even if it is for just a few minutes. We're getting ready to wrap it up. I didn't even realize what time it was. Verna says, Lucy gets treats from my mailman. Yeah, I'm sure if I took him out there and introduced him, he'd be okay with it. But, yeah, so Swanson says 2-minute warning. Yeah. But he's just never met the mailman. As far as he knows, it's just some stranger that comes up to the house that he scares away every day, Dawn says that the herd birds were 14 weeks old. You kept them in the dark, and they sure crowed. They never saw the sun until you got them, and they crowed in the dark. Crowed and mate in the dark. Interesting. Blessed with Pets says, my bird is learning so many words. I love him so much. That's probably not a quail. Probably a parrot or something, right? TM says, how time flies when you're having fun. Boy, isn't that the truth? The older you get, the faster it goes. A Quaker parrot. That makes sense. All right, guys, it does look like it is time to wrap this one up for tonight. Thank you all for joining me. Always good to see you guys. I'm still working on the giveaway for our 100,000 subscribers. So make sure that you guys are subscribed if you're not already, because you want to be included in that. I'm going to require you to be subscribed to be part of that. And unfortunately, it's only going to be for, you have to live in the United States for me to be able to ship it out to you. I can't afford to pay shipping to ship across the world. I wish I could. Oh, and Blessed with Pets says, can't wait till February. I'll be 16 and get my license. All the best people born in February. Happy early birthday, because I'll probably forget. My birthday's in February too, by the way, so I'm being sarcastic with the best people born in February. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for joining again. We'll see you guys next Thursday. I don't see any reason why I should not be here next Thursday. And as always, God bless. Take care.